That ban is also great against Hansama. Tristana first pick might actually be a thing here.
I also think that this should be a Janna ban. I don't think that you want to give over Janna like you can with Lulu. Yes, that leaves Jayce up, but when you talk about explosive engage and playmaking, Janna shuts that down better than anyone. So even though they are potentially giving over a Jayce, that's much more manageable.
So I will look at Tristana here because there's still Jarvan and Sejuani you can trade back and forth. You don't necessarily have to instant lock one of your junglers, and we get the takeaway once again.
Does make a lot of sense. We could see, though, Sejuani and Jarvan both taken here from Misfits. That would be showing your top end jungle early on.
Yeah, and blind pick Jarvan is very scary. Huni can just lock in a carry top laner and destroy Alphari up in that top lane, especially in the late game where Jarvan can't really do anything in return.
Yeah, we'd have to see, but he did play that matchup into the Jayce already earlier today and did fine. You know, he was down in farm, but then the lane swaps coming out of Misfits were able to actually answer that. So it may be something that they're comfortable with, even if it's just to try to deny your opponents from getting the Jarvan themselves.
So obviously the problem is if you give the Jarvan over and you pick Sivir yourself, you have that same situation as last game where you have an AD carry that can't get out of a Jarvan ult, and it makes it very hard to play team fights. They go for the Varus. This is again for laning phase on the side of Misfits. You can pair the Varus with a very aggressive support like Blitzcrank or Thresh, and there's a lot of kill pressure.
It is interesting, and also kind of prioritizing the first round counter pick more than actually grabbing something that would have been a contested pick, right? Because SKT already had their AD carry. Grabbing your AD carry here, all it allows you to do is to try to get a preferential matchup and then get a second counter pick later. Because we could see Alphari now select his pick of the litter before the second round of bans and say, hey, what do you want to play into that Jayce? You get counter pick.
And again, Jarvan will still be good here against the Varus. It's fantastic in the late game against this AD carry here who wants to stand still and just auto attack. Have to always respect the engage then from a Jarvan. So I think it's still a smart takeaway, but they're so afraid of a potential crazy support pick now coming in. Or even Misfits just saving support for later, and they can still grab a mid laner here.
Yeah, they could grab mid laner, but you could also grab something like a Gnar if you want to use that to answer into a Jayce, someone who's perhaps not going to be bullied as heavily.
Last pick here for PowerOfEvil coming in. Be that Rakan to make sure IgNar has a way in and a way out with his kit. 4 seconds left on that as both teams using their allotted time all the way to 0.
There we go.
Thresh gets locked in.
Yeah, wait, is this standard meta now? What's happening?
That doesn't seem right.
We get the Thresh instead. IgNar, as we talked about, pair that with a Varus and you have a very strong 2v2 lane.
And some of the power of actually grabbing this in the first round is you can now ban away a couple potential supports that would be strong into it. You know, things, if we're in North America, I'd be talking about Morgana, but I'm not expecting that from Wolf. I'm expecting more bans on things like Braum and perhaps even something like an Alistar.
There's also Tahm Kench to consider, even though no one has actually been playing it lately, but it can deny some of the kill pressure.
Yeah, and Tahm Kench I think would actually make a lot of sense. It's also good in the Sejuani. You can actually eat them out of the ultimate, but we have to see A, where the bans go, and B, what kind of strategy SKT is comfortable playing, because while there are these niche picks, it's things that Wolf very likely has not practiced in a long time.
They take away the Ardent Sensor mid laner from Misfits right there. We know the Thresh was locked in early because it's been banned by SKT in the last few games in this second phase, and they really trust IgNar on this champion. They want him to carry game 5.
Bans coming through. That Thresh was on the ban list in phase 2 quite a lot for SK Telecom T1, so Misfits did not give it to IgNar. Now he has it, and they are focusing quite a few bot lane.
Yeah, so Braum is going to get taken away. We do still see Rakan available, though. So while this can be a good matchup, if Wolf is confident enough, he could go into that. You know, he has the ability to just go for something like the Rakan. You end up with a very standard meta-type composition, and then it would be up to IgNar to outplay it. And I think that if you're going full early game, commit to that. Use the playmaking of the Shen. Allow yourself to get into dives. Already, I don't think you want to go into a late game fight, you know, without an Iron Sensor, without this sort of comp. So
there's that Tahm Kench. Ooh, I think
it's super smart, I think.
Yeah, it would be so good to try and prevent this bot lane from just dying over and over.
I mean, it stops Shen taunt, it stops the Thresh hook, it stops, there it is, the Sejuani ultimate as well. Like, this is so smart from SKT, and I love that they're going for the pick, despite the fact that we've not seen it in a long time. It is something Wolf has played many times in the past.
Final pick here for SKT. They're going to show what Faker will be playing in the mid lane here in game 5 of their quarterfinal match versus Misfits. tried and true Rise, continuously locked in for Faker, and he switches over to Taliyah with just a few seconds left.
I mean, there's an opportunity here for PowerOfEvil. Taliyah does have some matchups which can be pretty risky to play into, and this is PowerOfEvil's chance to actually counterpick. There's not been a lot of mid lane focus whatsoever, and we could go for something like a Lucian if he wanted to play aggressively into it. There's also the opportunity for a Syndra, which can bully this pretty well too.
And LeBlanc as well if you want to try and create kill pressure around the mid lane. But again, you got to respect the fact that Jarvan can hover around so often. PowerOfEvil though feeling confident in his Syndra in this matchup here.
One of the things to note with this matchup now, ever since Taliyah actually had her mana cost increased, it became very difficult to actually rush a Banshee's Veil, which is why you used to be able to blind pick Taliyah, because you didn't need the extra mana from something like a Lost Chapter or, you know, Relonomicon. So this is going to be much harder for Faker. If he goes for the defensive route and tries to get some early MR, there's the ability to get burst down so much more easily, or, you know, if you're not getting them Relonomicon, you're not going to be able to have enough mana to clear out the waves.
Very well-rounded comp still for Misfits, even with this Tahm Kench coming in to try and counter it, because it does mean there's just no art incentive for either of the teams. And late game, you still have double tank with Shen and Sejuani in the front, and Syndra's late game damage on 5 to 6 items is something you have to respect, especially when you have Jayce, Taliyah, and Tristana. None of them are super tanky in the late game. It's up to Wolf, though, with that Devour to just save every single member on his team.
It certainly is, and also up to Faker to get out to the side lanes to be able to punish any potential over-aggression coming out of Misfits, because Jayce against Shen in the early game is going to be tough for that Shen. And if Taliyah can get up there, if they can affect that lane and really start to snowball it, that's such a strong way into the game for SKT.
We'll have to pay attention to Misfits as well. They've been great at picking targets, but now they have to choose very carefully, as we were saying, with Wolf on that Tahm Kench. As the tournament continues to ramp up, you can add to the prize pool still and donate to charity by picking up the Championship Ashe and Ward skin in the store today. Already had a Baron steal earlier in the game, so we got a little bit of advance there on the eSports and Legendary skins.
Almost had a pentakill.
Almost had a pentakill. Quadra-kill coming in for Bang on this Tristana that they have been continuously taking away in picks and bans to kind of throw Hans Sama off. Here, now he's on the Varus, and the team is towards the top side.
This is 5 top. They have not shown anything like this so far. They're trying to get around behind Huni, perhaps sneak into the bush. You push him out, and then you could allow him the chance to kind of come back over, see if they can bait him in, but it seems like they're already calling it off.
Huni sees a random Shen charge towards him. Probably says,
You seem confident.
Yeah, there's probably more behind you at the moment, and ends up just backing away, and Misfits realizes nothing's going to happen here. Everyone ends up going back. So no deep wards being placed by either team just yet. No huge advantage from the level 1. We need to look towards bot lane once again, though, for Misfits. They've utilized Maxlore to help them play around the lane as a jungler, and then used IgNar's fantastic performance today to just create picks against SKT. And if you have your jungler there, what you can do is you can just switch your target to the Tahm Kench itself and actually burn him down, because in the early game, he is at least killable. The later you go into the game, the harder it gets.
SKT looking to disrupt the level 1, though they have some pretty strong champions here with Taliyah level 1 with that Q, with the Jayce as well. Misfits is going to have to handle this very, very carefully.
Felt very comfortable doing this to Maxlore and Azan Ivern. They still feel very comfortable doing it here with quite early game aggression. Looks like they're going to try to steal this red out. Pulling Alphari from lane, he says, yeah, Huni's not there, we're going to have to 2v2. Smite goes over, that's going to be blanks, and they're actually going to get the fight onto Huni. This may have to be a flash out for him. Flag and drag misses Alphari. Vision's there. A kill onto Alphari. First blood to Huni.
I mean, that is just way too much from Misfits. You're going a level 1 taunt, but then where is the follow-up damage supposed to come out through when you're going up against a level 2 red buff Jarvan? Bad call from Misfits.
And now look at the mid lane. Oh, nice.
Saw that last time. Beautiful scat of the week.
But also the fact that Blank just had the red buff in the brush right there. There was no ward able to be placed by Misfits because both the wards were on cooldown. And then obviously Blank is going to just smite it away. A little bit over-aggressive from Misfits there, feeling they had to try and defend.
Yeah, and now you're putting Shen into a lane. We talked about how hard it is in the early game. If you get put behind like this, he's starting down his teleport, down his flash against a first blood Jayce with level 1 taunt. That is a horrible lane to be going into.
Happy birthday, Alphari. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday right there. Pull the hat over his head and make it a little more difficult for that laning phase. Huni also liked to go for the tier on his Jayce build. We'll be able to get that a lot earlier. He's already sitting on 800 gold with that kill and big damage to Fakers. PowerOfEvil says we need to take control, and that's what Hansama and IgNar say as well, over and over in lane.
But now SKT, they know that Maxlore wants to just farm. He has no red buff. He wants to just catch up in experience. He's not really going to be on the map early. So there's some safety. Huni playing very aggressive up in the top lane instantly. And just go place his ward now in this tri-bush, and he should be able to spot Maxlore.
And I like aggressive buys like this from Huni when you have the early game advantage. You know, skip the tier, at least for now. Double Doran's Blade plus the boots. A lot of combat power here for him up against the Shen, who never got the chance to actually buy. So Alphari's going to be stuck in this lane, likely without items for quite some time.
Scryer's Bloom just catching blank on the way up as he takes the Scuttle Crab, and Alphari knows he's got some trouble towards that top lane. It's going to be pressure from Huni to the turret as well, so Maxlore may not be able to come up here and defend his jungle.
Well, he's on his way now to check if anything is happening and prevent any sort of tower dive. Can't afford Alphari dying again up his lane here.
Flag and drag. Smite coming out from Alphari secures that big Krug, but it looks like with the lane pushed, Huni is going to be able to help with this aggression in the jungle.
He needs a level above right now. Alphari just hit level 4 himself.
Plus, Blank has the red buff, so certainly the 2v2 you would expect to go heavily in SKT's favor.
Woo. Getting the auto attacks in very quick. Huni's sitting on just a little bit of mana. Still get that extra damage out of his stance change. And he keeps Alphari to the turret as well, making this difficult for him to farm. Grabbing the siege, not doing too bad for himself. The farm is still even.
Yeah, Huni's actually not been getting a CS advantage up in this top lane here, so Alphari's doing everything he can to just stay relevant and just wants to get level 6.
And that is the thing about Shen. You have to actually stop him from farming by zoning him off the CS, because it's so easy to last hit under turret as this character. So it's more about harassing the champion and pushing him out of lane.
Around the mid lane, Blank trying again. Last time PowerOfEvil just knocked him away out of his own combo. Doing it again.
Once again, you can see how Faker played as well. You hover towards the top side of that lane, you feel like there's going to be aggression from the other side, and PowerOfEvil kind of left himself in the middle for that.
Just beautiful from PowerOfEvil.
It is.
No hesitation there. He gets the scatter of the week, doesn't blow any summoners, doesn't panic whatsoever, and then great sidestep on the seismic shove, and really impressive stuff here from him in the early game to absorb this pressure, because with the start to this game, you can't afford to then have your lanes dying.
Exactly here. So Maxlore again, hoping he can just continue farming so he can hit his own level 6. Right now contesting Vision. He's alone around this mid lane here. Wants to try and defend this control ward so badly. But PowerOfEvil's in base and he's on his way back to lane now.
Yeah, and he's also going to have to deal with the minions at the turret. He's never going to walk by those. Maxlore pushing in a little bit. And it looks like they'll just give Blank some trouble. He's fine. Oh, Maxlore on a mission.
Maxlore truly showing some dominance here. Actually ended up first 1v2ing. Forced Blank away, and now he has his mid laner back. And he can actually feel confident in here.
And I did see Blank actually use his smite, so I think he wants to try to challenge this, but Blank had a second charge, and Maxlore going to be pushed out.
See IgNar on your screen, chatting it out with the team, seeing what he can do.
And we have that level 6 now for Alphari. Very important part of the game. If Misfits can actually force any place on the bottom side, the problem is again, Tahm Kench is here to deny it. It's even harder to set up a tower dive. Because if you don't get on the Tahm Kench himself, who then gets extra HP as well doing the dive, you can't really kill the AD carry in time, and then suddenly you end up taking too many tower shots. So everything just kind of gets slowed down by Tahm Kench being in the game.
Damage hit Alphari almost in range of the turret was Huni. And with low mana here, still Faker's going to come in. Huni maybe taking that first hit. Faker's going to actually be on that damage as Alphari makes it out.
Alphari actually sidestepped it, and then he doubted himself. He was already out and then expended the flash, so got a little bit scared there, really did not want to die. And it's understandable because when you TP back immediately, if you die with the wave pushed in, you lose so much experience. But still, he had outplayed it and should have trusted himself.
Bit of those nerves coming through, and he will have, as you said, that teleport down. If he chooses to leave, it's a long walk back to lane. And the question mark actually just coming from Blank towards that top side, saying didn't quite know where Maxlore was, and may have just seen him on that vision towards Blank back. It's going to be Huni backing as well. We'll see what items they come back to lane with. Tier for Huni.
Yeah, Huni really likes the tier here. Just aims for more late game. If you go tier, you kind of sacrifice a bit of your first 20 minutes of the game where you could be sitting on like a Phage and a Serrated Dirk and you have a lot more damage. But he values the late game where he wants the bigger mana pool, both for poke and also potential all-ins, where you do full rotations of your spells multiple times as a Jayce here. Alphari, though, with his early buy, is able to, once again, farm in this lane, but he's constantly pushed on the tower. Also because Maxlore can't really have any pressure in this game. He's not been getting red buffs. The second one was stolen away by Blank as well, and he's not level 6 yet either. Faker, he's on the way back towards top.
They can just go up and actually get some turret damage down because he already pushed in the mid lane, just walk up here, start hitting the turret, but instead will go back to mid and just allow Huni to get the chip damage down that he can. This is looking pretty good for SKT so far in the early game.
Double wards placed on the bot side. We haven't seen too much aggression from those bot laners, mostly towards this top here, making sure Alphari's down, even the shield. Hopefully preventing that from doing too much damage if it were to come in for a bot lane gank, and Maxlore is going to start up this Infernal Drink.
So with SKT once again putting their focus around Huni and the Jayce pick, just like in game 1, it does surrender the bottom side of the map. We know Hansama and IgNar are able to push in the bottom lane, and now Maxlore started Infernal. Good trades from Alphari once again. It's important. If he can actually get Huni low enough that Huni is afraid when it comes to hitting the tower, he delays the tower dying, but that's why Blank is here.
Alphari's pretty healthy, though. I don't think they can actually go for this dive. Huni's relatively low on mana. Alphari looking pretty healthy. Does not have his flash, though.
Ooh, actually just hit up, but he's out of mana. PowerOfEvil tries to decide or go back at blue buffs on the mid laner, so they will continue to fight. Alphari leaves just to be safe, and that's going to be top turret for Huni.
Faker's also trying to make sure that PowerOfEvil's not leaving the mid lane by walking forward and take some of these trades here. And even knowing there is a Shen ulti available, here's Maxlore.
Dodging out on the ultimate, feeling like it was just a little too quiet in the mid lane. Faker keeps himself alive.
Honestly, I've got to say, I think that Alphari could have actually defended under that turret. I think he had enough health, and they don't have enough damage at this point with the tier Jayce and Cinder Hulk Jarvan to actually fully dive you under the turret. And giving that up, though, is going to mean so much for Huni. It unlocks him on the map. He gets solo first turret gold, and really now is going to have a huge advantage.
And there is a ton of pressure on Misfits at the moment. They go into this game here to get the Thresh for IgNar, but then to see a Tahm Kench against it and not been able to make plays around the bottom lane. Not been as explosive as game 2 and game 3. And now you just have Huni winning that top side, take down a tower, and some missed skill shots as well from Misfits.
Certainly have been, and you also, anytime I see a Shen in the game, I feel like I have to talk about being proactive with the ultimate, because that is really the key to success. If Shen is just sitting in the lane here and farming against the Jayce, that's really not what you want. You want him out on the map, making use of this ultimate, making plays to get the other lanes ahead. But he hasn't been able to do so just yet.
Yeah, then Maxlore had to hit that ulti in mid lane to force a cleanse from Faker so they could return to mid lane. Use the Shen ulti there on PowerOfEvil to try and kill Faker and get some damage on the mid tower. Or they try and 5-man the bottom lane, but again, it's hard because of Wolf sitting there with this defensive support. And Misfits have not been able to find an opening just yet. The rest of SKT are playing very safe, not risking anything.
3,000 gold already for SKT. Looks like they are not stopping the pressure down towards the bot side. Faker gets seen out for a moment. And Yar can already tell Misfits backing up. This is giving SKT so much information. Seeing Hansama and IgNar leave the lane so quickly, they know they have wards down there, and SKT can start playing around this.
And Faker has been doing a really good job just threatening these roams, even though he hasn't really been fully committing to them. Every time he pushes out the wave, he can just start walking down the river, and Misfits have to respect the fact that he could be on the way, and that discourages any sort of aggressive play.
Got the cleanse!
It's out of Faker, missed with the flash though, which means that could be a rinse and repeat here.
Yeah, that was step number 1 here for Misfits. Now they need to see if they can re-gank this lane and actually kill Faker to get some pressure in the game.
Honestly, you could try to commit with the Shen ultimate. If you can get down there, even a dive could be pretty possible. We'll see if they are going to look for it, because you have to feel like they need to be forcing things. They need to be pushing this advantage that they've gotten with the summoner spells down on Faker.
Also got a chuckle with PowerOfEvil, the SKT Syndra going up against Faker. Looks like Alphari and Huni are going to have a little back and forth as Huni changes stances just to get a bit more movement speed and head out of that situation. Everything's happening more towards the bot side of the map now, figuring out what's going to go down with these bot laners. Huni and Alphari kind of been duking it out once his turret went down.
Wolf also, after level 6 now, with his own ulti, If he's actually near the mid lane, he can easily move in and try and save Faker if a setup is being started here by Misfits. Finally, Maxlore gets a red buff for himself.
Something else that we don't usually have to talk about, at least in this series we haven't had to, is actually the Moby Boots rush here from IgNar. And generally speaking, people are going much more, for kind of these greedy builds. This is super early game. When you go Moby Boots, you're not getting any stats from that. You're not getting combat power in lane. You have to get out on the map and make use of it. And so far, IgNar has been kind of pinned down in his lane where, Wolf got for the upgraded early Targons, already has his Sightstone, and he's going for more of kind of this defensive type build.
We're actually getting a lane swap now from Misfits, despite the fact that top lane is not in a good position for them. Same for bot lane, where the wave is all the way near to the own turret here. But SKT are not going for any damage on it. They're actually moving straight towards mid, trying to make a play here.
Missile Voyage, right to the top side of mid. It's going to be a shot back onto PowerOfEvil. He's going to take a lot of damage. Bang! Gets taken out. And it looks like PowerOfEvil stays alive on the backside. One more kill coming through, and that's going to be Blank as Misfits finally pressure the mid lane with the Abyssal Void.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. SKT were actually setting up a kill against PowerOfEvil, but then suddenly, bang, gets destroyed. Wolf was not there to save him, or at least wasn't ready for it. Those were 2 kills Misfits were not even looking for.
Yeah, I mean, when you engage into the Shen, then they don't have to be proactive. He's able to actually turn around the fight, the Lantern, and the Shen ultimate, keeping PowerOfEvil safe, and Misfits are gifted back a couple kills there by SKT.
Exactly, this looked like a very slow grind in favor of SKT, and then suddenly this play happens. Let's see. They want to go in behind PowerOfEvil, then knock him back with the Tristana. It's so aggressive what they're trying to do, but the Shen ulti comes down, and where's the Devour from Wolf? Flashes, he actually Qs first, so he can't flash Devour on his AD carry because he value trying to get a bit of damage in, and then suddenly bang, dies. Wolf realized just a second too late.
See how they continue to press on. They've closed the gold gap just a little bit. It was never that big for SKT, but usually a 2K gold lead at any time for SKT means they are going to take an arm and a leg after that. Misfits seemingly able to stop it here in the mid lane as SKT back out from base.
And we do have to remember that this is a solid late game comp from Misfits. They don't have to win early. We have been talking so much about them being proactive in the early game because that has been the way in to winning their first 2 games. But in the following game, in game number 4, that was a long game. They played admirably in the mid and late game stages, and we'll see how well they can match up against SKT here.
Yeah, the concern for Misfits is the fact that Huni will be winning the side lane split push all game long, especially also with the late game build he's going for. And then your 4-man group with your jungle, your mid lane, your support, your AD carry need to be able to engage on SKT to stop a split push from happening, but that's where it cleanses on Faker. That's where Tahm Kench is there to devour whoever gets hit by Maxlore's engage or the stun or the hook from IgNar. And that's kind of one of the problems for Misfits, is it gets much harder to force as a 4-man group.
And I'd say that creates so much of an onus on having good vision control, but they may be looking for PowerOfEvil.
Voyage comes out. He's able to keep himself pretty safe. You can see the teleports coming in, but not quite finished here from Alphari.
Nice timing on the ultimate there from Blank to actually dodge the scatter of the week this time around, but they can't get the kill. They do force out teleport from Alphari, but he almost has Stand United, so it's not the end of the world.
Back and forth from lane to lane. Bang able to use this Tristana, or the team, much like Misfits were. A bit of damage on the turret, aggro in that lane, and then catch the rotation. And SKT is finding Misfits around the map here and there. Cloud Drake picked up by Blank.
All right, so SKT value the bottom side to get a Drake, meaning Rift Herald can get started by Misfits when all of it's clear back in base. This is a good trade for Misfits. They're happy with this one, surrendering just a single Drake for a very big objective for them.
Maxlore picking it up this time. Usually on to IgNar. Looks like they will just get the quick push and safety for PowerOfEvil in the mid lane. Now looking to get some deep wards in. Misfits is ready to make this Rift Herald work.
And looking to actually set up a pick. They know they have not been spotted. They have strong vision around this area, and you have the Sejuani ultimate to be followed up by the Thresh hook and the Shen ultimate available, so they are looking to make a play here.
Oh, SKT, they're pinging in there. They want to make sure no one actually gets caught out. Flag comes in. Smart play by SKT, knowing they'd lost the top side. And there was a high chance of Misfits hiding in that brush here. Bang, he needs to be careful in the side lane for himself. tense game though. Game 5, quarterfinals at Worlds. Second seed from Europe Misfits against SKT. And this game, while it was a tough start, is still very close.
And who would have thought an unlikely band of Misfits able to make this happen? Kind of even throw SKT off their own game and say, you know what? No ardent sensors really this time. Let's do this. Okay, maybe some ardent sensors. Let's do that.
I'm actually getting flashbacks towards 2015
Are you with us?
MSI, where Europe was considered by many a super weak region coming into MSI. It was Fnatic back then who took on SKT in the best of 5, took it all the way to 5 games. They had their own way of playing the game as well, very aggressive from the top side with Huni. That was the event where SKT went to the final and lost to EDG. Now we're seeing Misfits try and do exactly what Fnatic tried to do, actually take down SKT in this best of 5 and be the ones moving forward in the tournament and proving to everyone that Europe is a strong region.
It's pretty interesting also to kind of track Alphari's build here. Generally speaking, I feel like it's a little bit atypical to see someone rush towards the Titanic Hydra in a matchup like this. Perhaps feels that if he can complete this item early on, he may actually be able to kind of stave off some of the split push aggression through actually more aggressive play. Because traditionally you do see this only in more AP matchups where you have a Cowl rushing into Titanic.
Yeah, I think the fact he sees a tier on Huni makes him less scared of him right now and says, okay, I don't have to rush full defense. I can go for a bit of damage. Be a lot stronger 1v1 as well, and even in a team fight, if he's actually able to land the taunt, the damage from a Shen with the next 3 hits is pretty serious.
Yeah, it is actually very, very good, and you can proc it a lot faster with the Titanic Hydra reset, but then the onus is on actually hitting the taunt, right?
Yeah.
Jayce can do a lot of things to actually stop this. You can sit in melee form and actually buffer your E anytime you think that they are going to be looking for those taunts, so we'll see how well Alphari is going to be able to navigate this.
Quick Talisman of Ascension for IgNar. Eye of the Equinox finished up for Wolf here as they are favoring the vision and they're favoring the movement of that Abyssal Voyage to get themselves into fights. And it looks like Huni's still hanging out on the side lane, just hanging with no mana until he gets that aggression. But Alphari's backing right now, so he gets free time in the turret.
And this is kind of the setup I talked about before, where Huni will just sit in the side lane all the time, and it's on the other 4 members of Misfits to actually start a team fight. So Alphari has something he can ulti onto to get into the 5-on-5. But because they are relying on these single target skill shots to create picks, they haven't been able to find the targets. Wolf is there, Faker with Cleanse. And SK is sitting so far back on the map, just waiting for Huni to win the side. And now the Baron is alive, and what you want to do against split push comps, if you can't find an easy engage, is start the Baron, and then you force SKT into 5 versus 5 team fights.
And at the very least, try to force out the teleport and disengage, right? If you can do that, you can buy yourself some time where Huni cannot be pressuring without the risk of you actually just committing and rushing down this Baron. But it still is fairly early. Titanic Hydra is complete, the Rage Blade is up, so they have some damage to actually try.
And Wolf ruins everything for Misfit. Looking for that engage, and then Devour comes in.
I mean, that's Tahm Kench in a nutshell. He just ruins things. He stops your engage, he shuts you down, and that's why you pick the champion.
Everyone at home were complaining about Janna Lulu every single game. Well, Tahm Kench is back. Enjoy the Devour.
So nice. We'll see how they continue to use it, and we'll see if Misfits can find a way around it. As I said, coming into the game, they're going to have to be very particular about the picks we saw, the Blitzcrank hitting, about the hits that Unleashed Power can kill. For PowerOfEvil, they're going to have to consider these greatly.
Yeah, I would like to see Misfits try and just target Wolf specifically. If they are forcing an engage, just get it onto the Tahm Kench to at least start the fight. But once again, Baron seems to be the objective they can bait around, or this Infernal Drake spawning in 55 seconds.
And while I certainly agree Wolf is kind of what you're left with targeting, he's not a great target.
No, it feels bad.
Has the Merc Treads with the thick skin, he's going to be actually fairly tanky. He's built into the Eye of the Equinox, so he's relatively tanky from that, getting the bonus HP as well, and it's going to be really tough.
He's probably going to get a QSS later in the game as well, just in case they actually finally hit him. He can use that to then, once again, disengage, so they can allow Huni to just win that side lane. 2 items now completed. This is what he's waiting for on this Jayce when he builds the tier, to continue to split pushing in the side lane.
Merc Treads across the board, except for Bang, basically walking through a chain of corruption or any of these stuns that can hit from PowerOfEvil. The slight freeze, 23 minutes coming up on the clock, 2-1. Still in favor of Misfits and kills, but this is the SKT game they play where they'll avoid you and start to take control of the map. And even at 2-1, we could see SKT on the inhibitor turrets.
We might get a fight around this Infernal Drake here. Everyone is moving towards it. PowerOfEvil is not there yet.
Misfits would really like to get their second here. Oh, Hansama's already getting ulted in.
Lantern, dark passage to safety. IgNar missing the hook as the dragon had stepped out of the pit, so he's waiting for that cooldown to come back up. Scuttle Crab is going to go over to SKT, so they have a bit of that control as PowerOfEvil goes on to Faker, throws down everything he has to cleanse on the scat of the week, and he gets himself to safety.
Well done there by the Misfits. They get their second Infernal, so 2-0,
Whoa.
big advantage. That's going to be a big deal if they can actually keep it close going forward into the late game.
I said, playing around each other, finding who can get the biggest advantage in the fight and get out with using the least. 2 Infernal Drakes now to Misfits, as we said. And they can find themselves coming back out of base. This, however, gives SKT time to clear wards and place vision.
Yeah, now, again, the goal is this Baron here. There's no Drake for a few minutes. That's what you got to play around if you want to stop any sort of split pushing. SKT knows this. They will try and get down all the defensive vision they can. Even getting the Rift Scuttler is good here to make sure they can see something in this river. 2 items on PowerOfEvil. His damage is something we have to look at in fights. If Wolf is not there to devour whoever he's actually trying to kill, he gets at least the person down to 20-30% HP. First hook from IgNar.
Second, he hit the dragon.
Valid point.
Gotcha.
Onto Jarvan. First hook onto Jarvan.
That's right. 25 minutes in here. And we are going to see Misfits trying to take control of that bot lane with Alphari.
Oh, Huni's no flash.
Hansama towards the top, and with this split, Huni feels like he can go in, knowing there isn't too much more damage.
I'm a little bit surprised to see Alphari actually going for a cowl here as well. I mean, if you are joining into a team fight, then yes, Faker is going to provide a lot of damage there, but mostly he's stuck in a side lane, and he's gone very light on armor for when you're considering he's going to be spending most of the game actually up against the Jayce, and there's also still a very powerful Tristana here too, so I'm not really a fan of the item build. He needs to be able to hold his own in a 1v1 so they don't just bleed objectives, so they don't lose their inhibitor turret.
That does mean that his lethality coming in from Huni is still pretty useful for him, even when he's hitting this Shen. Obviously, the Ghost Blade and Dusk Blade is what we're looking for next for the Jayce. So in your team fights, when you join, your damage against all the squishies is amazing. Now, there's no flash on Huni. PowerOfEvil's on the way to try and catch him. In case SKT start the Baron, then Alphari can still TP in.
Find him, look for the slow, so
He's going to Baron.
guarantee that scatter. Blast is just over the taunt! Huni gets himself in a position to possibly make a play, but there's still too much follow-up. This does give SKT time to look at Baron.
But this is a really good play because, again, you still have your teleport on your Shen. So it's, at worst, a 4 versus 4 near the Baron. Great call here from Misfits to punish Huni for being over-aggressive.
Yeah, that buys them a lot of time. I mean, that's a pretty long death timer there for Huni, and Alphari can get up. He can put some pressure on this turret, deny some of the minions as well. Misfits navigating themselves quite well in the later stages of the game, and despite the small goal lead for SKT, with all the extra stats from the double Infernal, you have to say it's pretty much dead even.
Gonna come down to execution in the next few fights. Hansama is on the Varus. It's difficult to play team fights on this champion compared to things like a Tristana where you can peel for yourself. Your range is great. For Hansama here, he needs to respect the fact that Blank can get onto him every time.
It's also worth noting, Hansama not playing with Warlords, no lifesteal in his build, no Ardent Sensor, so if he gets hit by any sort of poke, if you get shock blasted at the start of the fight, if you get hit by a rapid fire auto from the Tristana, it can be extremely hard to re-enter the fights because he has no way to sustain back up.
PowerOfEvil, blast cone over, puts everything on Huni. 50 seconds until Huni's back.
And now they're towards the top side here. Huni should be on the bottom side with his TP, but he tried to push out away. They're starting it straight away. They know they can still turn. There is Sejuani ulti from Maxlore, and IgNar is there with the hook.
Vision just on the outside of that pink ward. Another one placed in. Faker trying to get the damage down. Weaver's wall cuts on PowerOfEvil and IgNar. They are on to Wolf first, and that means they'll be able to take him down. Wolf flashes to safety. Gets himself out with that exhaust as well.
Oh, Misfits do not want to risk a 50-50 Baron, so they peel off instead of trying to finish it. They saw Blank around. We also had right there IgNar not in a position to interrupt the Jarvan if he tried to jump into the pit. Of course, Blank could always try and flash in there, so Misfits trying to play it safe, still trusting in their own late game and not putting it all on this Baron.
And why not? They've had an incredible series. And here's the kill again. I love that PowerOfEvil uses the ultimate first. This puts so many orbs on the ground and makes it so you cannot miss your scatter of the weak. Ensuring that ensures the kill. Confident play there from PowerOfEvil.
And while we talked about how Misfits struggle to force a fight onto SKT because of Tahm Kench, well, it also means SKT can't really play aggressive with this 4-man group. They're trying to peel Misfits away from the Baron here, and Wolf will stay alive during the fight, but they still lost Huni in that side lane. And that's another kill over to Misfits, and they can try and do the same thing again, because SKT's way of playing aggressive is through the split push, and they can't really find other ways.
And as long as Hans Sama can be kept safe with this 3-man front line of IgNar, Maxlore, and Alphari, he is going for an exceptionally high DPS build. He's building towards that IE, and when he has that completed with the Rage Blade, your auto attack damage is absurd, but you need to be kept safe. You don't have the buffer of a defensive item. You don't have the buffer of that Ardent Sensor support or the lifesteal.
Such a breakout tournament from Hans Sama. In the EU LCS, people always look at Sven and Reckless. Hans Sama was like the new guy who came in, but he couldn't really step up and beat these two guys. During Worlds, though, he's been one of the best performing players on Misfits, and he's one of the main reasons they're sitting here in a Game 5 against SKT.
An amazing thing you're seeing from both Hans Sama and IgNar on the same page all the time. And even when it was the Trist for Hans Sama and IgNar was a few steps behind, they were still going in with that confidence. Talisman of Ascension towards the mid lane, just kind of flexing their muscles to see if they could get a good hook in as PowerOfEvil was rotating out slowly.
PowerOfEvil is going to be so important in this game. Already 3 kills. He has a lot of farm. He's at such a strong point on Syndra that he's going to force itemization to be changed. He needs to force out things from Bang, like a Hex Drinker or a QSS. And this third Infernal is enormous if Misfits can get it. We'll see if they can navigate this fight. For now, it looks like SKT is not on the way, but Misfits is a little bit spread out.
Flank focusing towards the mid side. It's going to be a shock blast from Huni to see if he can grab it. Alphari stands in front, and 3 Infernal Drakes going to Misfits.
SKT are so passive. They are so slow in their shot calling, but now they're trying to change that. They're rushing the Baron.
How fast they can rush it down. You have Maxlore just on the side. He has IgNar as well for safety to get out of this. Pushed away by Faker, and it looks like that's going to be enough for them. Baron wasn't even down to half.
This is so good from Misfits. Grabbing that Infernal. 3 Infernal advantage is just absurd. It's such a low percentage win game generally when you give over that combination of Drakes to your opponents. And you said they're playing passive, Martin. I think SKT is playing scared. They look like a team that is trying to play not to lose Game 5 against a team that was never supposed to challenge them. That was never supposed to be this close to moving on to the semifinals. And for the first time, it almost feels like they're playing as if they are the underdog.
They're playing like a team who's just waiting for a mistake from the other team, but Misfits not making any mistakes right now. PowerOfEvil's moves down to the bot lane to kill Huni was perfect. The setups around Infernal Drakes been spot on as well, and they react instantly to that Baron being started. So right now, SKT, with their very defensive 4-man group led by Wolf and this time Kench, are still just sitting and hoping that Misfits will mess something up. But it's not happened just yet. We're still looking at now triple Infernal. Baron Vision is the next thing we're looking at once again, and Misfits can just start the Baron and force a fight.
When I talk about Syndra, I like to talk about damage thresholds a lot of the time. Hitting enough damage that you can essentially one-combo your opponent. And if you can reach that, you're so ridiculously powerful. We have a 3rd item death cap and triple Infernal. PowerOfEvil is over 500 AP at 30 minutes into the game. If he lands a combo onto Bang, Bang could just die from full. And despite the fact that there's a Banshee's Veil on Faker, so could he.
Honestly, we shouldn't even be surprised that SKT are just waiting for a mistake. It's what they did in groups.
Here they go.
So many games. They were waiting for teams to mess up around Baron, around team fights. Now Baron here is being started.
Huni's teleport is down. Alphari Stand United is down, but teleport is up. PowerOfEvil taking a lot of damage. Buster Shot's going to get him over the wall, but I don't think Explosive takes him out as he still gets the heal from Hans Sama. The team working together, but Huni not in the fight. SKT still able to stop Baron.
Both summoners down on both mid laners. They get out barely. And this could mean SKT can clear out all the vision, can reset a little bit. And there is a global coming back up for Alphari, so they still will have that advantage and could look to force once again.
But that was such a big one from SKT. 4v5. Yeah. They managed to stop Misfits from getting the Baron, and they didn't even lose a single member. Faker cleanse flash down, but he did use it to stay alive. And once again, Misfits do not want to risk blank stealing this Baron. they keep peeling off and look for the fight, but they can't get onto the correct target.
They're playing smart, they're playing intelligently, and they're playing confidently. And you have to think if they could go back to the Baron now, if they can start up the Baron with Huni having no teleport, them having the Stand United available, and no summoners on Faker, flash down on Wolf, that with the flash up here on Alphari, with the flash available on IgNar, you could make something happen.
But we know that SKT need just one team fight in their favor. They get the Baron. Suddenly they get a massive gold lead and they are in full control, but they have to be able to win this fight first.
And this is the play from Misfits, despite the risk. This is the intelligent play. This is what they should be looking to do. And you need to play around that. You can't give your opponents too much credit. You have to do what is the smart play if you're playing against G2, if you're playing against Fnatic. No matter who you are playing, look for that.
Both teams charged up in that tempo, looking for something on the map. And it's Misfits trying to play on their clock, making SKT walk to the beat of that drum.
Faker might have to use his ulti out here in case Misfits are chasing towards him. IgNar is spotted by a ward though, and he knows he's actually seen here.
Oh, they're going to collapse.
As he gets to that passive, gets himself some movement speed, but still feels he needs the Weaver's Wall.
This could prompt them to start the Baron. Faker does not have the ultimate to actually disrupt that. But they're still playing it somewhat defensive. Not sure if they want to commit to it. And Huni is closing in on the top side. He's going to be looking for that turret. He does have his teleport back critically now. So it would be a 5v5 if the Misfits look for it. Kind of missed their window.
Maxlore taking quite a bit up to the team now to defend this mid lane. But SKT should be able to get vision control more towards mid and the top side of the map here.
And this instantly now gives SKT the push in the mid lane while Huni's still pushing in the bottom lane. He needs a few more waves to kill that tower. Misfits saw that jungler drop low. There's no Warmux on Maxlore to get all the HP back instantly. And suddenly it's SKT in control.
And Maxlore did not go back to base. He's actually staying around, so he's going to be much less effective in this next fight. Because he went for the Randuins instead of the Warmogs, he's stronger in an all-in fight, but much weaker in these sort of skirmishy scenarios where he can get that Warmogs regen and come back.
Still so crazy we're in a game 5 now. Dead even between the two teams, SKT and Misfits. Winner moves into the semi-final.
And PoE is looking for a kill here on Huni. Huni has no MR. He could get comboed.
PoE already starting to throw down some orbs to get a little extra damage, but Huni is out very quick to keep himself safe, keeping both summoners as well, so he can continue in that bot lane.
Quick thinking right there. Great use of the Grump from Huni's side. IgNar is here to check if Baron's being started. He's getting jumped on.
Flash over the wall.
Communications there. The Shen ultimate coming down as IgNar flashes out, and that is a big deal. IgNar has to get back to base now before Huni can knock down this inhibitor turret. They're going to be down. The Stand United SKT could be starting up this Baron.
And we said as he were looking for some mistakes.
Huni down immediately.
So while
Solo kill, PowerOfEvil.
While the rest of Misfits not been able to punish you over here, we got another fight.
That's the fight. Cataclysm goes in. IgNar falls just as fast as Huni, and that's 2 50-second timers on the clock. SKT is looking at Baron. Alphari can teleport in.
And Misfits cannot afford to be out there when they have two members on the bot side. This is now flashed down on almost everyone. Han Salman needs to be exceptionally careful. He's penned in here. No summoners.
Figuring there would be vision, SKT just gives up time if they go to Baron. They want to keep their tempo up and try to keep the fight going, but Misfits collapse in the mid lane and now have a fight of their own. SKT takes another look as we have 20 and 14 seconds on both dead members.
And this is teleport available now for Huni. No teleport on Alphari. They're trying to force the issue.
Look at PowerOfEvil. He's hiding in the brush here. There's no wards. He's stacking the balls as well. He wants either bang or Faker.
Wolf's going to be there in the front, scatter with those, so he's there a bit out of range.
Blank is in there.
Pull these ones in.
He gets
That's
it!
Elder Drake going over to Blank, and they're
being
going to be heading towards the fight. Here comes Huni. Obliterates PowerOfEvil. He had no chance to get out. Hansama falls, and Misfits is heading for their base.
Yeah, they're going to lose a lot of kills here. This could be the Baron for SKT. Bang looking for one more.
One more shot from Bang. Looks like Blink was going to give him the range, but Rapid Fire comes back up, and he finds it himself. 4 down for Misfits. SKT takes control.
And SKT, they sit back and they just wait and wait and wait, and then they find the openings. They're now pushing in for the inhib.
They could actually look to end the game here. There's still a long time on these death timers. Alphari has not come back, and SKT, I think they're going to do it.
SKT, 5 games in. trying to avoid elimination, and they have done so. SK Telecom T1 will be your second team in the semifinals, claiming victory over Misfits Gaming.
What a series between SKT and Misfits. What a game 5 as well. Low on kills. So many small fights happening, so many moves between the two teams, and SKT were just waiting for an opening. They were waiting for a mistake, and they found it in the end, and then they punish instantly. They even get the Elder Drake because Blank smites it. Misfits stepped away from Barons, didn't want to risk 50-50s. Took it at the Elder Drake, and they lost it. Win that Elder Drake smite fight, and you win that team fight.
Definitely agree, but they felt like they had to go for it because both the globals were used at Alphari. Huni was going to have TP advantage, and I don't think they were willing to take that sort of a game where Huni could get in and chip down that inhibitor, where SKT could have map control because they are too good, and SKT wins again.
Bowing to the crowd and heading back, thinking, how did this get to a game 5 as well? SKT, many more games to go within this Worlds tournament, and many teams are now looking at them as vulnerable.
Of course, but so much credit over to Misfits. Like, what a performance in this series. So few people thought they could do anything against SKT. Game 1 was a complete stomp, 25 minutes in favor of SKT. And then they bounce back with these off-meta picks. We get Leona, we get Blitzcrank. They win 2 games in a row. And even in the slow games here, game 4 and 5, they were so close to actually beating SKT. It was definitely not a late game just purely in favor of the Korean team.
It certainly wasn't. I mean, both games, really, they were one team fight away from being able to take the game.
And the crowd loves them.
A very well-deserved cheer coming from the crowd here in Guangzhou, China. And I'm sure all Misfits fans are very proud of this performance here at Worlds, from challenger to almost champion killers.
I mean, you just have to love this team after what they've showed during this tournament here. Everyone playing the same ardent sense of supports. They're changing it up. They're playing aggressive. They're forcing plays. They're never afraid of actually doing something on the map, and they take this game all the way to 5. So they deserve all the love they're getting from the crowd and the fans.
They certainly do, and you have to feel like the future is so bright for this team with a lot of young players who have not been together for that long. The improvement was there from week to week in Worlds, and they showed us a level that I never thought was possible from this team, and they can certainly walk away with their heads held high.
Absolutely. To hear more about that win, let's send it over to the analyst desk.